We are live with the most up-to-date information on modern comic books, period. I'm joined by my two friends, Steve from My Bargain Comics, and the one and only Mr. Long Short, Mr. Go Collect himself. Gentlemen, how you been?
Top of the world.
Top of the world.
Go ahead.
Well,
I've just been trying to keep up with DC Future State. We went through two DC fandoms, right? We went through NYCC, whatever they call that, Metaverse, right? Nothing out of DC about 5G or Future State, and then all of a sudden we just get this huge dump.
We're going to relaunch DC Comics. Thanks for the warning. Yeah.
Well, it's really just a temporary, 2-month event, and then things will go back to normal, is my take.
I sure as hell hope so. My God. The question for me, I guess, is will there be a lasting impact? And, DC's been firing on all cylinders with film announcement after television announcement after film announcement. And I guess there was a really good question that was posed on the Instagram. Ben, I think you've been kind of ahead of the curve on this one for some time now. Does Marvel Comics have to put Black Widow on Disney Plus in order to regain some momentum, to kind of remind people that they're there? Do they need to do something bold, or can they stick with the sort of homeostasis? Ben? Did I lose you, buddy?
Sorry about that. You guys, people are breaking up. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
we can hear you fine. My question is, does Black Widow need to go on TV, or does Marvel lose gas if it doesn't?
No, I think honestly, the movie industry as we know it is probably over. And that's not to be overly draconian, but from an economic standpoint, I think the streaming can make a lot more money for these companies. Whether Black Widow goes or not is up in the air. There's this hedge fund manager, Dan Loeb, who I actually know personally. He's making a hard push for it. When he pushes for something, he usually gets it. So probably ends up on Disney Plus. But I think the entire movie industry is going to change, right? Movies they existed because you could go and watch these dramatic big screen pictures only outside of your homes, right? And that's why movies largely existed. Now we all have effectively movie theaters at our homes. Storytelling doesn't need to be limited to 2.5, 3 hour type segments. I think we've learned that people prefer 10 hours of content in 1 hour bites. So I would strongly suggest that Disney is going to move towards their streaming service, and a ton of content is going to come out. Disney's announced a handful of stuff. I think this is going to explode over the next 2 years in a way that a lot of us can't even imagine. Characters, storylines are going to come flying at us in ways that we couldn't imagine. And Nico, you and I were talking about this long before this broke, right? That I felt that this was ultimately going to happen. The major movie chains are all going out of business. They're bankrupt. So even if the industry wants to come back, there's no way for it to actually happen, right? AMC, I think AMC is 3 months away from bankruptcy. Regal's gone under. This is happening, and I think that this is it's nasty at first, but ultimately it's going to set the stage for something better. And what we're going to see come out of Disney, Marvel is going to go all in. They have so much content, right? So much content to produce, and they can do it across a number of different genres and styles and age groups that we're going to get a flood, and it's going to be awesome for the spec market, right? It's going to actually open up opportunities that none of us even imagined. So I'm excited about it, and I really see that coming down the pike here. within the next 12 months. And if COVID disappears tomorrow, I don't think any of this changes, to be perfectly honest with you, because I think the economics behind streaming are far too lucrative for these guys to abandon it. So we'll have to wait and see. Could be completely wrong, but that's my take on this.
Thank you, my friend. Steve, now to put you on the spot. I like this. I just get to interrogate the two smartest guys I know. All my friends, regardless of whether or not they like comic books, will occasionally, just sound across the spectrum, right? Like, regardless of what they do for a living, what they do for fun, they're like, hey, did you know that you can get a 67 million inch television from Best Buy for like $45 and a bag of nickels?
Right.
And I'm like, well, no, I didn't. They're like, are you in the market for a television? I'm like, what do you get paid on commission? I heard recently too, I thought an astute observation that people are suggesting that if Disney and HBO and these other streaming services don't increase their offerings and increase their books of business to kind of compete with Netflix, that it's just going to be too hard to catch up. What's kind of your take on the forthcoming streaming wars and its impact on comics?
Well, I think I agree with that, because I'm one of the poor souls who signed up for the DC Universe service.
You're the only guy I know that still pays for it. Yeah.
Right. And that's so I can get the comics, so I can research, right? But when I look what I got out of it, right? If from a non-comics point of view, I got Titans. Titans was great, excellent. Can't wait for season 3. Doom Patrol, which was pretty good. I don't think I can hear, Brendan Fraser curse too many times. I mean, it's just, but it's very Grant Morrison-esque. It's like I don't feel like I'm smart enough to watch the show and completely understand it. So, okay, Titans, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing. I watched some of. But I mean, it was such a drip and drab. I mean, if they didn't have the comics, it just wouldn't make economic sense. And right now, I'm paying for that. I'm paying for Disney Plus. My kids are older; they're not really interested in watching it. But I'm really psyched for what they have in the pipeline. I'm really psyched for WandaVision, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And some of the other things, but there's not a whole lot of bang for the buck right now with the smaller streaming services. So yeah, they're either going to have to, I guess, put up or shut up, and and maybe there'll be further consolidation, within the media world as well.
Yeah, I think you have a great point. They haven't put up the content yet. Listen, I don't have an inside scoop, but a lot of these movies that they were planning on, I would not be surprised if they turned them into 6-hour TV shows, right? 6 1-hour segments, or stretch them out. Even Black Widow, potentially, could they turn that into 6 30-minute TV shows?
It's interesting you say that, right? We heard, what was it, yesterday or 2 days ago, that they were filming.
Yes.
And I was like,
really?
Yeah, they were filming for, help me out, it was Captain America and the Winter Soldier, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
it was supposed to be wrapped.
I was under the impression it was wrapped.
By the way.
Yeah, I was like, oh, but I thought that wrapped. So, who knows? It's super interesting, though. So I know people didn't show up to watch us hypothesize about the future of the television and film industry. They want to know about the sweet books that you guys were kind enough to bring along. Ben, you said before we started that you had put together some sort of powerhouse eclectic blend. Can we start there? And then
let's do it. Let's do it. So
on to Steve and I, and hopefully Steve's going to try to explain to me 100 years of DC Comics. So I'll be excited about that too.
So I'll talk about a book that I love. It's gonna be a little bit elaborate because it there's a lot of moving parts to this conversation. So X-Force #1, like, hold on, Mr. Longshort, you've completely lost your fucking mind, right? There's 5 million of these with no hyperbole, 5 million, 100%. But if anybody knows me, right, the newsstand versions of these are really tough to come by. And, right, let's leave the newsstand alone. The Deadpool card, right, which is by all accounts his second appearance, even more so.
Did he freeze?
Don't leave it to me. Go online, go on eBay. Deadpool's. Can you see me, guys?
Hey, buddy. Yeah, well,
I can hear you.
We just paused for a little bit, and now we can hear you. So,
all right, cool. I can hear you guys fine. So go on eBay, take a look, and see if you can find these. Now here where it gets complicated. If you want to get this book graded, you got a couple of problems. One, it's been polybagged, so there's a crease, right? So you have to press it. Well, if you take it out of the bag and press it, how can you prove that it was the Deadpool card? Very, very tough to do, right? Additionally, CGC, CBCS won't grade it with the card. They take the card, they send it back to you. So what do you do with this? What do you do? Like this is one of the better books I can think of. How on earth do you own this book? Well, I like cracks in the market. I figured it out. Now, I don't know if you guys know Tony over at EGS, but he's the highest quality grader, probably way too harsh. He overgrades because he's trying to build the credibility of his business. He will do this for you. And you know what Tony will also do? And this is not a commercial for him because this is the only guy I can find that I could have a conversation about this opportunity, is he'll press it for you. So you'll send it to him bagged. He'll press it and then put it in there with the Deadpool card, right? Nobody else does this. Like CGC, CB, they won't do it. So this is a big opportunity. I love this book. I think there's 2 of them in existence. I own both of them. I own one in 9.6 and one in 9.4, right?
It would be interesting to see what it would do on eBay, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I nobody probably cares. Like I get interested in books nobody gives a shit about.
No one cares yet.
but this is the coolest, fattest pitch, and I promise you guys, go out there and look. Find the Deadpool card in newsstand, and tell me how many you can find. I've been looking for this book for years. Right, it is not easy to come across.
Well, wait a second. So I heard that there's a million newsstand comic books from the 1990s, and that nobody ripped them down when they were children, and that they're all perfectly pristine. Isn't that true?
So I was a newsstand collector, Nico. So I grew up in the backwoods of Maine, right? Like the fucking sticks of Maine, right? And I had a number of different pharmacies and bookstores that I would go to, right, to buy these things. And I hear all these numbers thrown out there, right? The first thing we need to know about these massive print runs from the 90s, they were driven by the direct market, right? All these comic book stores ordered all of these copies, right?
Wait, the guy at Walgreens, he didn't order 200 copies of X-Force.
He had no choice. He couldn't order anything. He just got what he got. And what he got for X-Force was 6 copies. He got 1 of each card and 2 of the cable, because cable was the biggest thing in the market at that point, right? That's what he got. He got 6 copies of that. I've tried to work the numbers on what, and I'm not going to throw it out here because I'm sure I'll get skewered for it, but it's not a lot of them. And I think to support this argument is that if you go in and look for the Deadpool newsstand variant, you're going to have a very, very difficult time finding it. But I would go to like 5 or 6 different pharmacies and a couple of major bookstores. And it wasn't as though there were, so there's 5 million Deadpool. They didn't take 15% of the X-Force run, right? So 15% of 5 million, and that's the newsstand. It was a far smaller number because the newsstand couldn't absorb it. They were just putting out whatever they had. They weren't filling with X-Force, right? I wouldn't go, the day X-Force was. That didn't happen. So I think the numbers behind these are a little bit murky, a little bit up in the air. But I would say the proof is go find it, right? So I'm not going to tell you what the number is. Go look for it and tell me what you can find, and come back to me and let me know, because they're pretty tough to track down.
So when you were shopping newsstand in the 90s, were they still using spinner racks? Because I dropped out of comics in the 90s, so I was used to the 80s, and I can imagine they could only fit like enough comics to fill one spinner rack.
That's exactly it. So there were spinner racks, and bookstores would have them up on the shelf, but there would be no, as far as volume goes, there'd be no difference, right?
Yeah, but the point is, there wasn't like a case of them in the back.
No,
right?
God no.
And the perfect demonstration of this is, why is the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man #1 second print worth so much money?
So that was a Walmart exclusive, by the way, right? So I don't know if people realize that. So that gold Spider-Man #1 was actually a Walmart comic, which I don't think a lot of people know. And because that was a relatively low distribution, right? That actually didn't hit, as far as I'm aware, and I've researched it a little bit, the spinner racks. That book was literally available only at Walmart's back in the 90s, when I don't think Walmart had fucking anything as far as comics were going on. So
Walmart wasn't even nationwide, because I remember going on a business trip in mid 90s to Oklahoma City, and I think I went to my first Walmart, and I was like, oh, this is Walmart. And then a couple years later, it came to Maryland. So
it wasn't in Maine. I'll tell you right now, Walmart wasn't in Maine at that point in time. So that's why. Yeah. So that's why that book, I think, is as rare as it is. So there's a lot of misconceptions about newsstands. People say, okay, in the 90s, the newsstand was 15% of the market, right? Roughly. Well, X-Men #1 with 8 million copies, I can tell you right now, 1.2 million weren't put through the newsstand. There wasn't enough ability to put that many copies through.
Yeah, I think they're measuring that as distribution centers, though, right?
Sorry, I missed that, Nico.
In other words, when they say that, they mean that not with respect to the number of books. They're talking about the number of distribution centers.
I think the 15% is that it's a rough estimate of what was the percentage of newsstand versions versus direct editions in the early 90s, right? That's a rough estimate. There's a number of different articles that have sort of cited this 15% number. But I think that's an average number, right? When the direct market went all in on X-Men #1 or X-Force, they were, that had no impact on what the newsstands got, right? They were doing their own thing, right? It had no impact whatsoever on the newsstands. They were just getting whatever, the 4 or 5 copies they were ever get. Like Amazing Spider-Man was the #1 newsstand copy in the early 90s, right? That was 5 copies per spinner rack, right? That was the book, right? So it wasn't as though the whole spinner rack was full of Amazing Spider-Man or X-Force or whatever. It just didn't happen.
Interesting.
Yeah, listen, I don't have the hard number on it. I can just tell you what I observed as a collector growing up. And I wasn't hunting newsstands. I had no idea that those were books would be desirable today. It was just all I had access to for the most part. So, that was really just my experience on the whole thing. But I think there's a lot of misinformation there. But yeah, I really think that if you can get this Deadpool card graded, and like I said, CGC won't do it for you. Like this is an awesome book to have in your collection, man. Like it's fucking awesome. And there's only one guy I know who will do it. And like I said, this is not a commercial for him. I've just tried to get it done through different sources, and literally EGS is the only group that will do it. And I think this book is a 9.8, but he's such a hard ass with grading. Whatever, he gave me a 9.6.
So how much do they charge for grading? How much do they charge?
It's like $20 for a book.
Okay. Interesting. It
was $20 for it.
Yeah. Now
he's a super high quality guy.
Yeah, I would probably encourage people not to take them out of the bags. Like if you would have asked me beforehand, I would have said leave it in the bag, please. Lord have mercy.
Yeah, if you want to grade it, keep it in the bag. But you're just basically holding it in there. And I've got one in the bag, 2 graded like this, and
yeah. And the reason I say that is I've started keeping Ultimate Fallout 4s in the bag too.
Really,
because I think that's the opposite of what people are doing. Right?
Yeah, I hadn't thought that through, Nico, to be honest with you, but that's an interesting idea.
Right. So if people are taking them out of the bag, I want them in. People want them in the bag, I'm taking them out.
Now I've got to decide what to do with
just be oppositionally defiant. I don't know.
Yeah, and all these books are getting hot, like Static, right? Static's another one of those bagged ones. I think I have the remnants of a Static somewhere on my desk.
Static, I mean, sounds like it's like not just hot, like En Fuego. I mean, this thing is on fire, right? I mean,
I'd feel better if what's his face was playing Static than I do with him producing it.
Oh, Michael B. Jordan.
Oh my God, yeah, it'd be lights out. It'd be lights out.
All right. Sound like he's gonna be the guy, and maybe he's too old for it, but he's an awesome actor. I mean,
what's your next one?
Oh, I just want to talk about Deadpool. Everybody's gone quiet on him, but Ryan Reynolds ain't going anywhere. Obviously we all know New Mutants 98 has 6 gazillion copies printed, or whatever the official number is. This newsstand came out in the late 90s. They was really starting to fade. This book was big. So I've got a 9.6 here. I mean, I'm sure there's some 9.8s out there in the newsstand, but I think that when Deadpool makes his comeback into the MCU, this book is going to catch some fire. So, the trick on this one is that people don't look at the back. So you can find these newsstands out there. Nobody's quite aware of them. So just keep
the other thing I like about that one is that's the iteration of Deadpool that we love.
Yes.
Right? Like it's not Rob Liefeld's no feet sort of like I'm an assassin, I'm angry, whatever. It's the breaks the fourth wall, Fabian. I don't know how you say his last name. Nisi as
that is really the run. I think that people started to kind of fall in love with it. Rob likes to take all the credit for Deadpool, but let's be honest, like the version of Deadpool that people fell in love with was not his version. And listen, if I was Rob, I'd take credit for it too. Let's be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Well, did Fabian? And again, I'm going to screw up his last name.
Nazia,
maybe. Okay, I like that one.
Yeah,
did he
idea.
Craft Deadpool to emulate Rob Liefeld?
He scripted him. That's all he did.
I mean, call me crazy, but those two people, they seem like the same.
So you know that basically Rob laid out the plots and the character outlines and the background stories, and basically he was like, here, I need you to write dialogue, but this is basically what's going on with the story, and I just need you to put word bubbles in there. And he's like, make this guy a jerk. So,
and that's how it happened.
Yeah, I mean,
he absolutely just made him Rob Liefeld. That's exceptional.
I mean, whatever.
Makes me so happy.
Rob Liefeld created a gazillion characters. Most of them nobody gives a shit about. But Deadpool hit. Deadpool's successful, I think, in spite of Rob. And I don't necessarily have an issue with Rob. And I would take credit for it too. But the version of the character that I think that hit wasn't his version, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I like his Cable too. I like Rob's Cable. Absolutely. That was like my favorite Cable.
He's a legend of the industry. Like we can say whatever we want about him. He's still a legend of the industry. You love him, you hate him. I mean, he's,
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I know you're a super fan.
I am a super fan.
Yeah, you're an absolute super fan.
I'm also in the Rob Liefeld Extreme group, and you guys,
I didn't know.
There's a group of fans for Rob Liefeld that are very much eclipsing the same like tier as Jeff Scott Campbell and Todd McFarlane and some of the guys who have cult followings. And I want to give a shout out to any of the watchers who are actually in the Rob Liefeld group. And it's for me, it's,
you guys are extremists.
Don't say that. That's a little bit, a little bit of a faux pas today.
What do you call yourselves? Are you like Liefeld lights or?
I liked
We're just-
Extremists.
we're just comic fans, man. That's all I can say.
Wow.
And it's funny because every time there's a foot joke, it's just like, haha, yeah, we get it. We
Well,
we
the best thing
get it.
about Rob is when he doesn't take himself seriously.
Yeah.
When he doesn't, he's a win.
Look at some of his store variants that he does for himself. The Rob Liefeld Creations ones where he's in shoulder pads and it was the Mercs for Money and it says welcome to the big time, Rob, or something like that. It's actually got a word bubble on it. It's like one of the cool ones. But in reference to that
We've
Deadpool
got our
series,
answer.
yeah,
I like that. That's good answer. Good answer.
But no, that Deadpool #1 from Joe Kelly, and yes, Joe Kelly's Deadpool series is definitely the one that gets a lot of love because it's also his first full ongoing. But you did have 2 major miniseries in there that took place before, and everybody, my wife and I was Deadpool and she was Siren for Halloween one year. So as a couple, if you remember back to the really old days of X-Force, Deadpool and Siren had a thing going on with each other. So I thought that was kind of
going way back. That's going way far.
That's post Vanessa. So yeah, I mean that's
this. We've taken a very dark adult turn. Let's get back to books. Ben, what else you got for us?
If we're talking about 90s newsstands, I mean, this bad boy, I think it's starting to heat up, but I think it's worth tracking down. I mean, there was 6 gazillion copies of this made as well, but in the newsstand, it's harder to find in high grade. So keep an eye open for this. This used to be an easy picking area. I think the market's woken up to this, but obviously a book that I've long enjoyed. Less easy to find these days, but something that's near and dear to my heart. This red foil cover damages relatively easily, but sometimes people overlook the newsstands because there's so fucking many of these things. I think there was 1 million of them or whatever the hell it was. Worth keeping an eye out for. What else do I got here? Another 90s gem. The spec character stuff aside, I mean, this cover was just awesome. Another one, a newsstand, the gold foil. Keep an eye open for it. I think it's relatively undervalued in the newsstand because it got damaged so easily. But something I like to look for. I know there's been some spec value on this from the whole Kate's run. That's not even my thinking on it. It's just it's such a cool fucking book, and it got its ass kicked in the newsstand. So,
yeah, no, I think the focus on the newsstand insight is smart, particularly in light of the conversation that we had with Matt Nelson, who indicated we'll start labeling newsstands as a different thing, creating a different census for them on the CGC census.
Well, they should.
We just need to wait until people demand that it happens. People are demanding that it happens.
The smart collectors have been chasing these things for a while. I don't even know what that means. And if you have them graded, can you resubmit them? What do you do to get them designated as newsstand? Because they should have a desire to have a correct sort of measurement of newsstand versus direct market books, particularly in the 90s where it really mattered the most, in my opinion. What's the catalyst to get it done? I think collectors are saying, this matters to us, it should matter to you guys.
Well, I want to piggyback on that comment for a minute, but we found out doing a lot of digging that it matters all the way back to the 70s when the direct market was actually infinitesimal compared to the newsstand market. So
yeah, because it goes the other way. That's a good point. There's a point in time where the directs are in more demand than the newsstands because there was nothing out there, right? And wasn't Dazzler #1? Wasn't that supposedly the first direct market comic?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
No, that's correct. That's my understanding.
Okay. So, but yeah, this is where collecting gets crazy because you have everybody who's always been, for all these Bronze Age keys, been going crazy over the newsstand version, and then they come to find out there are way more of those out there, and this includes, and people are not going to like it when I say this one, Amazing Spider-Man 300. has
That's a good point.
way more newsstands than it does in direct, because the amount of direct stores that were available during that time frame. It wasn't until the later 80s that we started approaching that more 50-50, and then as the 90s approached and more direct stores opened, as the market really exploded and took off, you had that newsstand shrink. And people seem to overlook that when they're looking at a blanket statement over all of these newsstands. But the ones that you've shown, for sure, it's basically like anything past the late 80s and early 90s, if it is a key book, you should probably hedge your bets, get both the direct and a newsstand.
Yeah, so it's interesting too, because obviously books that are sold at comic shops are going to be cared for. They are much more likely to be bagged and boarded, either by the shop owner or by a collector coming in there who presumably has more wherewithal than somebody who's buying them off of a spinner rack to stick them inside of a bag and board, and not like a grocer freezer bag if they're really kind of important to them. So there's lots of like diminishing returns with all of that. I really am excited about the late Marvel and DC newsstands that were just in the Borders and Books A Millions.
Like this.
Yeah, those, I mean, that's a whole different game, right? I mean, you're talking about, if you're talking about sort of late.
What is that, Steve?
So I can't pass them up when I see them. You know, a lot of the let's say 2000 and after newsstands. If I see it for $1, it's very tempting. And so this was one, Ion. And this is the last issue of that miniseries, which just made me think. You know, a lot of people are really disappointed with the HBO announcement that Kyle Rayner is not going to be in there, but you know, maybe he appears as Ion, the torchbearer, which he briefly did for a period. By the way. Another spec tip of this: if you see the trade paperback of Ion the Torchbearer, pick it up. That's a good spec. Man, I know I've been throwing out some good trade spec on our hangout lately.
Man, that's one other rabbit hole I am not ready for, because there's a couple of places by me that buy used books, and
right.
they will root through the comic books and like jack up the prices, match eBay and all that. But the trades they just throw in their used book piles, and it's their used book prices.
So. Anything? I don't want to come into that area of the market.
Too late. You've already said it, but it's okay. No, and it gives us an opportunity when we go, because I go out of town, and there's a second in Charles where I go out of town to. So I'm looking forward to this visit, because every time I go out of town, I go digging, and there's also a massive comic shop like 5 minutes from my in-laws' house, so it makes things really, really interesting.
Yeah, and if your LCS has sales like 30% off trades, or 50%, or even sometimes 60% off.
How about a whole room full of dollar books and half-price trades?
Oh, yep.
So, hey, Steve, since I got you up on the big screen, can you kind of dig in and explain to me what the hell Future Spec is, please?
Oh, future state, right?
Future state, whatever the hell it is. So, I mean, I figured out 2 books. I was really proud of myself. I had Gary help me do that. By that, I mean, Gary told me about 2 books. Right. I don't understand any of it. It's all very complicated to me. The only observation I made was that there was someone in Batman's helmet. I was like, well, he's got a blue skull face. I think I recognize that.
Yeah.
What is going on, Steve?
So
help me.
So it looks like they took the remnants of what was going to be 5G, which would be the next big reset, right? It was you got the new 52, then you got Rebirth, and then you were going to have 5G. It was Dan Didio's baby, and he was fired, but they still had a lot of things in progress or done. So this is like a 2-month event, and I'm not, to be honest, I'm not too excited about it, because I've seen DC do this before. They had the new the Future's End one shots. If you remember the 3D covers, the lenticular covers, they did those. They had the Convergence 2-issue minis that were almost all unreadable, right? I mean, yeah, and that's just off the top of my head. So, I'm not too excited about this being a very temporary 2-month look into a possible future, which if you look at Future's End and you look at Convergence, those miniseries, a lot of them were the same type of thing. And even if you go back to like DC 1 Million, I mean, they've been doing this sort of a thing forever. If it had more of a lasting effect, I think I'd be a little bit more excited. And there is that chance, right? I mean, if the readership really, gravitates towards something, I'm sure DC will roll with it. But
unquestionably,
right? But if not, they're just going to go back to what they were doing. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't some things to spec on in a very short-term way before those books come out or when they come out, or that those books aren't good for future specs. For example, they're introducing the Brazilian Wonder Woman, right?
No brainer.
Right. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Here's the problem, though, right? They are permitting retailer variants for that Wonder Woman book. We've already seen the Jen Bartel, so we know it's going to get printed into fucking infinity, which is always painful for a guy who is like, oh, well, that's easy. Nope, you just ruined it. I like the Wonder Woman Annual 4. I think we talked about that. There was probably a key alert or something.
It was a tweet, right. And once the guy tweeted about it, eBay got wiped out, and then I rushed to my my collection to make sure that it was pulled for me, and of course I did have my nice copy. So
so that's a Wonder Woman Annual 4 from the
Correct.
2020 series.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of theoretically the South American Wonder Woman as a child. I may or may not have posted the pages on the IG.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't, I'm sorry. And then the other one is the one I like a lot more, Red X.
Right.
Can you explain to people why Red X is awesome?
What was the question?
Oh, can you explain to people why Red X is awesome?
Well, as I remember, it's been
a leading question, right?
A couple of years, right? But it goes back to the Teen Titans Go cartoon, not the goofy one, but the serious one. I think it was early 2000s. I think Robin assumed the Red X identity.
Yeah.
But, I'm no Red X expert. No pun intended. But I think from the research I was doing, it looks like there really is no identity behind Red X. Even if you go to that, can I say it? Can I say Teen Titans Go number 23?
Yeah, I don't care. What the hell do I care?
Even though DC is saying it's the first appearance of Red X in the DCU, this is the Future State book. In the
that's not really accurate, right? Yeah.
Yeah, in the animated comic book, issue number 23, there's a Red X, but I read the issue, and I believe it turns out to be a robot. So Red X still doesn't have an identity. But that's the type of short-term spec I'm talking about. Although I could see them doing something more with Red X in the future. I'll throw another one out at you that I don't think people have taken notice of.
I like
and it's one where I don't even own a copy. Yeah, and I'm not going to run out and buy it. But so one of the books is going to be the Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown, both as Batgirl, right? And we've seen them in their solo series before as Batgirl. This is the first time we're seeing them together as both being Batgirl. But actually, it's not, because one of those crappy, one shots that I talked about. If you look at Batgirl Future's End number 1, you have Stephanie and Cassandra appearing both as Batgirl in that book. It's like a team of Batgirls. I think the third Batgirl is Tiffany Fox, which is, I think, Luke Fox's daughter. So that's one to look out for if you're looking at, how to spec on Future State.
All right. Well, I still have one unanswered question, which maybe no one can answer. Who the hell is the Batman?
Well, I did some digging
About blue-eyed Batman?
And you know what? So, do you guys remember the probably hottest Batman story arc that really probably brought in a slew of speculators and readers? A little ditty called
Azrael?
Endgame.
Oh,
You remember that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at the end of Endgame, and not the Marvel super movie, the Batman run.
I wonder if that was a fuck you to DC by Marvel after they crushed the souls of their opposition. But anyway, please. Like DC couldn't do it in print.
Do you guys remember? Do you guys remember how that all resolved at the end, where both Batman and Joker died?
Right.
Yeah.
And then Bruce Wayne comes back in a brand spanking new shiny scarless body.
Interesting.
So the next Batman is just, in my intuition, is leading me down that it's just another Bruce Wayne is the better Iron Man, but without the armor, because he figures out a way to be immortal and relive himself and reborn, basically grow a new body every time I die, or so, if the night will be forever.
You think that's just Lazarus Pit Bruce Wayne got blue eyes from a organ tissue donor?
No, I read Future's End, and I see that Batman before he gets his arm chopped off is blue-eyed Batman.
No way.
Yeah. So the one that's in there talking to Terry McGinnis has got blue eyes, and he's the one who sends Terry back in the time stream, and this is in this wonderful little free comic book day ditty that I was reading, just because somebody very wise told me to check back into some Future's End stuff, and I took him seriously on it, so I started digging in. But yeah, the Bruce Wayne is like me, the grayish blue-eyed Batman, and the whole Batman Eternal. Like, what's the play on that? Is how is Batman eternally going to protect Gotham? The same way now we have a Robin Eternal. And yeah, maybe some of these other guys get to grow up and be a Batman, but maybe when Bruce was like, okay, you're going to die, well, I'll just create another clone and come back as a young Batman again. And I mean, I may be completely off base on that, but I really think
I don't think you are, because I'm going back to Endgame and the first Batman Eternal weekly series. I seem to remember.
For the record, that shit was so bad, I quit comics. No, I'm just kidding. But that's about when I got out of comics. It was
actually Batman Eternal wasn't bad. I think Batman and
it's
Robin
sold.
Eternal.
You are what I would call a Homer. Yeah. So I'm talking about Scott Snyder's run. I didn't really read that Eternal, but Snyder's run was so good until he tried to write the Joker, and then I was like, this is horrible. What is happening? You're my favorite Batman writer since I was a kid, and I didn't realize that Frank Miller was whacked. I just thought he was just awesome. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute.
I thought it was all tongue in cheek and like a joke. It wasn't a joke.
So you didn't like the Joker that sliced his own face off type of scenario Joker, and then eventually became the Endgame Joker that we had? Because
I liked it for about 3 to 4 issues, and then it just went off the fucking rails.
Because that was another, like, one of those big twists post Endgame was the Lazarus Pit resurrected Joker, who was like, I must have died recently, and he was like kind of like a little bit like me, haircutted.
Yeah,
and just looked like a normal dude. Well, without the beard, of course. But yeah, so it was like wild to see a Joker that appeared, out of makeup. So is he one of the 3 different Jokers? I didn't read 3 Jokers number 3, so I haven't spoiled myself.
It's not out yet.
Oh, okay, good.
I wish it was.
Well, then, okay. But I'm looking forward to how that one resolves and how we find out. Do we actually find out about all 3 Jokers? I mean, is it going to be like hard evidence that we're going to see 3 different ones?
Or is it going to be like Joker Eternal, right?
Yeah. I mean, and what a twist on that one if it's a Bruce Wayne clone. That's Joker. You know,
or like Night of what is it? Night of Vengeance, the Flashpoint one. It'll be Martha Wayne, right?
Oh.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and we got some comments over there in the live chat there talking about Bruce Wayne having blue eyes in much of the DC animated universe shows as well. We also said Tim Drake's eyes are blue, and JJ Maxwell. That's the alternate side of the spec. If you guys remember the Super Sons run where we had a future Tim Drake time travel backwards as Batman trying to kill people.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. It was Tim Drake that battled Red X on Teen Titans Go, right?
Probably.
Was Tim Drake the Robin of Teen Titans Go? I thought it was Dick Grayson.
Well, wait a minute. Wasn't he? Didn't he always have eyes for Starfire? So then it would have been Grayson, right?
But I thought that I'm not sure. I'm gonna try to not.
But
talk about what little I know about Teen Titans Go and not spoil it for somebody on who Red X is. Don't Google it or you'll learn it all. All right. So I guess moving right along.
They've had 15, 20 years.
Yeah. So Ultra, here's my question. Did you prepare a slideshow?
I've got three different ones actually.
Get the fuck out of here! I was just breaking your balls. Because
no, man. Do you not know who I am?
You're a sick maniac. Yeah, you're a sick maniac. How do I do that? What do we do?
Okay, so if we're gonna do this, let me ask you this because I'm gonna delay myself to do something really, really good. I think that's gonna be this one. So I've got to basically choose which screen I'm gonna share.
Yeah.
I need to close out the one I'm not going to use, and then
you should let the people in the live chat select, since they were kind enough to show up in large numbers.
Well, there's a long one, there's a super short one, and then there's a super duper short one. So I'm going to give you guys the obviously I'm going to give you the goods. So that's what I came here to do. So
you're a kind soul.
Forget my other plans. I'm gonna donate my time to Nico because he's so generous
I appreciate that.
allowing me to come on here. So I just shared my screen. Can you see it? And actually, wait, I'm not ready for you to. There we go. Can you see it?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm not good at technology. So let's see. Share screen,
right,
and then
at the bottom,
share screen and click you. Share screen. Well, that didn't work well. Not do that.
All right. Well, while you guys are figuring that out,
look at this. I just do that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a genius.
There you go. So you got it. You're on point. So as long as it's not 8 hours, yeah, man. I tapped out pretty early last night. I made it about 3.5 hours in. I had a long ass Friday.
Let me spoil this because everybody keeps talking about that like it was an 8-hour show. Mel just left his computer on. It's not that long.
Yeah, that one's not really? 8 hours. Yeah. Oh. Like if you scroll over top of things, you can definitely see that it didn't go a full 8 hours. But I want to give a shout out to Lucas and Nick Hart who closed out the show. They remained the troopers of the night. I didn't get a nap yesterday, which is always what I have to do if I'm going to.
Dude, I was going to jump on.
I know,
and I legitimately I got to stop telling Mel I'm going to jump on and just only if I'm awake call him incessantly until he sends me the link because I end up falling asleep. Like I fell asleep on my couch, just drooling on myself. Woke up at 5 a.m. Felt good. Then I was like, oh shit! I looked at my phone. They were still on. I was like, I quit. It's a terrible idea. Anyway.
So this list that I've got right here is going to be 53 different books that you're going to want to very carefully examine to avoid a green label. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Because green labels, right? Everybody freaks out about that. Like submitting a book, so everything's all the up and up.
How you get a green label? That's fucking great.
Well, no. There's the books that I'm going to show you.
Will all get you green labels? If
you do not examine them for the component that, if it's missing, will qualify grade you, then yes, you need to.
Do I get a guess? A value stamps?
Go for it. I want to hear it.
Yeah.
Value stamps.
Yeah, you're on point, man. So
All right.
we're gonna roll with this.
The Marvel value stamp books, okay.
So yeah, and did you guys know that they messed this one up pretty bad too? And I think they put 2 different value stamps, or the same value stamp in 2 different books, and I think it messed it up for a whole lot of people. But this is from that Marvel Legacy run, and this is the run that honestly has a lot to offer because it was their their big slate as far as what they were trying to do. So this was a one that I of course I had prepped and all that other good stuff. But yeah, 53 different Marvel value stamps to collect, and they gave you this wild little pamphlet, which is like one of the 53. I think that's the 54th one. They gave you a list of books that they all came in, but you guys know which books these came in? You know what books these came in. So a little while back, I did a full breakdown of a bunch of variants, and they just happen to be the Marvel Legacy ones. So we're right back at Marvel Legacy. The headshot variants are basically the equivalent of what the value stamp was. So
really?
Yeah. So now these cover A's. Now again, everybody remember the lenticular was like the huge, everybody over ordered a shit ton of them. And to this day, I still do not have a Thanos 13 cover A to my name. So all of the A covers during Legacy, the ones that were skipped over to be ordered for the lenticulars, have these value stamps in them.
Huh.
So some people were out there chasing these things. So if you
what did you get if you put all 54 value stamps together?
Marvel had some promotion where if you filled up that book and sent it to them, they had some kind of prizes for you.
Yeah,
so
what the hell are they? I want the prize.
I don't even remember.
I'm way more interested in getting a prize, dude.
Right, but so I actually dig.
I'm like a little kid. Like,
headshots.
give me a plastic toy.
So the headshot variants are 1 in 10s. They're kind of cool looking if you're a fan of the character, and this is the completionist in a lot of us. Some of us will go after every single variant of every single book in a run if we're really into the character and collecting it, regardless of the ratios and stuff like that. So all of these value stamps, all these books, these cover A's, which differ from the lenticular artwork, which then was recreated and used in the second print art. So they all have different covers too than all the books, and they are in a lot of cases grossly underordered. So
nice.
lots of good little effects.
I thought the headshots were 1 in 10s.
The headshots are 1 in 10s, but the books on the left are the cover A. And again, the B cover would have been the lenticular. And stores loaded up on these lenticulars because they thought they were awesome, and then we of course found out how unawesome they were, and that's why they're still to this
Nico,
day.
You're going to be disappointed. I looked up what the prize was. 50,000 Marvel Insider points.
Ah.
What the fuck does that do for you?
Well, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, maybe there's some special variant you can use to, get.
You could use those points in a store or something like that. So
I better get the Delato 667 at this point.
Right?
Come on, it's a lot of work.
But what I like about Marvel Legacy is this was their line-wide, really big push, and they of course they tried to do a lot of first appearances and a lot of new storylines in these. And there's some of these books that I was super disappointed in not having a second print, like the lenticular for America #8. Is a homage to that that Green Goblin and Spider-Man cover where Goblin's dragging him.
Tragic, dude.
And because I can't believe that one didn't get a second print, because you would have thought with the hype behind America that she would have gotten it. This is another one of those books.
If you don't have Gwenpool in this, we're gonna have a fucking problem because
Yeah, man,
number
relax.
21, I believe.
Hey man, it's all alphabetical, man. It's cool. We're still in the A's. We're still in the A's.
Okay.
Cool. This one right here, it had a second print, but they didn't do a second print of the Legacy lenticular variant. They just did a second print of the cover A. So that cover A right there again is gonna. These all have the value stamps on the inside of them. So you're gonna have to absolutely fucking check these books. So then of course the Avengers. Some of these are cool. This one did not have a second print. Also, this is the Scarlet Spider. No second print for this guy too. And it was basically I could copy and paste all the ones that I had second prints all listed out for and delete all the excess stuff. So this was actually an easier setup for me to put together. But some of these covers are really cool. Like this team for Cable is the team that consisted of X-23, Shatterstar, Dupe, Blink, Longshot.
And theoretically, if James Gunn does what I think he's going to do, I don't necessarily see us getting any other iteration of the X-Force than this one done by James Gunn, period.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
This version right here, like this one that on the screen, holy shit! Like that would be. There's so many fucking versions.
Yeah. I think that's the like time period he likes, though, isn't it? From what he's been tweeting or
something along
Instagramming?
those lines. But I mean, some of these stories are really, really cool, especially if you're big fans of the characters. And of course, the legacy renumbering really got people a lot of jump on points. I love this headshot variant just because it's a division. Champions, of course. I like the fact that this cover A by the interior artist Humberto Ramos is not as common as the lenticular is. And of course, the high evolutionary swipe for the second print is also one of my favorite of the second print homages that they did. There's Deadpool one, or I'm sorry, Daredevil one. I'm sorry, I'm looking at slides ahead. There's Daredevil one, of course. Wilson Fisk becoming the mayor of New York. You're a big Daredevil reader, right? Wasn't this like a huge Daredevil story at the time?
Yeah, man, they're all fucking big. I love this one. I don't think I have the headshot, to be honest with you. I think I just have the cover A.
Did you get it? You get yourself a second print, the one that's the swipe of Dark Phoenix grabbing the X-Men sign, and it's
I totally
Wilson,
don't. I mean,
Wilson Fisk grabbing the Daredevil stuff.
Read it. Yeah. I mean, it's the best. It's the best ongoing Marvel title for the last 50 years, in my opinion. But yeah, I got to chase that down.
And then, of course, this is the first time they went on a hunt to kill Cable.
No way.
So the first time they killed Cable, it was Cable and Deadpool going forward in time and finding Cable in the future and killing him and cutting out his heart and bringing it back to Strife. And then Kid Cable comes and executes Cable and eradicates that timeline completely. So interesting stuff. If you follow Cable, you're going to follow along with it. And I thought this was like the coolest cover, and I was so pissed that the lenticular looked nothing like this.
Ultra, what's the first appearance of Strife?
That depends on who you ask. It's supposed to be New Mutants 87. All right, but it's also supposedly the box in 86. Things to come next issue. I mean, it's confusing as all hell, but you don't find out that Strife looks like Cable until X-Force #1. But this Defenders number 6 here, or number 8 or whatever, yeah, it's number 6, is the same artwork as number 1, only Deadpool's jumping down the front of it, and this was actually a pretty low order cover A, so it's a low order Deadpool cover for Deadpool collectors, and of course it has the value stamp on the inside of it. This, of course, is where Loki becomes Sorcerer Supreme. Second print for this one rules, in my opinion. But this whole storyline it's pretty hot right now as far as Donny Cates writing. So, got you a Falcon. Of course, this
one second print's nuts right now, isn't it?
No, I sold one for like $12. But
really?
I sold it to someone I liked, and of course, it was one of the ones I pulled out of the Walmart pack, so I wasn't really sweating it too much.
Really?
Generation X. Now, long short, man. I know you're a huge Generation X fan, man. This is
same.
This is one of those, like the lenticular. Everybody was gaga over the lenticular because it was that swipe from Generation X #1. But the cover A, a little bit underordered as far as.
Is there a second print of that one?
No.
God forbid.
Hey, can I hop in here real quick? Gen X stuff real quick. Not to steal the thunder, but like I shared this the other day. So Gen X 1, I had the newsstand. I had this since I was a kid, right? Right, which is pretty fucking cool, right? But then I, I've got number 2 in newsstand because I was a fucking newsstand kid. I didn't know any better, right? But then in an auction for nothing, literally nothing, I won this Gen X preview for nothing, quite generally nothing. I've never even seen it before.
Does the preview predate issue 1?
Yes.
Yes, it does. And then, fuck, what did I do with it? I had the ash can
I know that's a bizarre question to ask because you're like, well, of course it does. But back in the 90s, it was like,
I believe that preview came actually packed into previews. Like when you open previews, it was one of the things that fell out.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
But Gen X,
let me see the ash can.
Nothing ever came of it. I mean, there was that shitty TV show, but I don't know, that book from like, you know, my like 16-year-old self was fucking everything. So whatever.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, because everybody else had the grown-up X-Men and they had the Xavier Institute, and all of a sudden here came this ex-villain, Emma Frost, that everybody was like hot for teacher about, and all of a sudden she's got the Massachusetts Academy.
I still feel that way.
And I'm from Massachusetts, so whatever.
Yeah.
That was cool too. And you know, Chris Balcio, I fuck his name all the time, but like I've loved his art since then. Like anything he's done since then, I've been in love with. Like, and a lot of people hate him, but I don't know. His shit works for me. So
do you have issue 4
of Gen X?
In all the formats, in the deluxe format, in the newsstand.
I probably have it in the newsstand because I was buying newsstands at the time, but probably that's all I got is the newsstand.
First appearance of Mondo.
Yes.
And Mondo's been playing a little bit of part in the X of Swords storyline, so that's why when I was
I'm sure I've got it in the newsstand in the long boxes somewhere, but beyond that, that's probably all I got.
So I was also like, I had the glory of a direct shop, but then I also had that direct shop that wouldn't always order everything right, and I wouldn't have books, and I'd have to wait 3 weeks and then go to the Hallmark store, the 7-Eleven, a couple of grocery stores, and I'd be able to find the missing stuff in my collection. So I would always have that odd random newsstand book. But I also live near a military base, so some of my newsstands at random.
Mark's Jewelers, you bastard! Yeah, those are the gold mines.
They would have been gold mines if they didn't put the Mark Jewelers right in the middle of Rob Liefeld 2-page centerfold spreads, where I'd yank out that centerfold, like an X Force #3, I think was one of those books. But you know, as a kid, you don't know any better and that kind of stuff. But in my older years, I've definitely gotten back into them. So let me breeze through the rest of these covers.
Sorry.
I had a question for you.
What's up, man?
I just happen to have this close by.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for the value stamp in there.
It's only in the cover A's, man. This is how
it's only in the cover A's.
It's only in the cover A's.
But wait a minute. Did you know you could get a digital value stamp? That's what it says in here. You can get
that's the alternative.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, digital 1970s remastered.
What is happening right now?
Yeah.
You've got.
I don't even know what's happening right now.
You're hitting a bunch of boxes, and then you got to hit the box.
Where's Brian?
The box to the right.
I need Brian.
There we go. You're good. No, you're good.
I'm basically a hacker.
All right.
Basically a hacker.
All right, so
get you off track.
So no worries. But again, like I was saying, you're going to find the lenticulars pretty easily. But these cover A's, they're probably a really good pick. You just want to make sure they haven't been picked clean of that value stamp. And here you go.
Oh, there we are. There we go.
Here's your 21 with your 1 and 10, and the Iceman's up next. And then here you go with Miss Kate Bishop. And this is one of those other books that did not have a second printing. For the lenticular.
Tragic. The Glenpool second printing is
brilliant. I love the cover and that.
And this Jean Grey run, actually, I was kind of digging it at the time, and the lenticular for that one would have been fire. This
second print for this one's sick too. I don't have it. I got the Gwenpool though. You hear that?
Yeah,
I got it.
Yeah, good. Fucking
A. I don't know if I've got this. Wait, is this the Doom versus Iron Man second print?
Yes.
Yeah, I got one of those.
And it's Riri Williams in a suit.
No shit.
Everybody's seen. Yeah, this is the Invincible Iron Man legacy, where Invincible Iron Man #1, where she wasn't Ironheart yet, and then that was that #1
versus Doom. I like it.
And then it turned into this Invincible Iron Man legacy renumbering. So it was Riri in the suit, even though it's Tony Stark. That's the name of the story, I believe, is The Search for Tony Stark.
I got a Riri book back from CGC here.
Yeah?
I think you've seen it before, maybe.
Yeah, it's number 9.8, right? Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah, I got this one back.
300 raw is what I got for mine.
Dude, I fucking sold mine. I just want to tell you how bad I am at this fucking game. I sold mine in 9.8 for 300. That's how fucking.
I bought I think it was like a 9 for like less than $100, and so then I just cracked it open and sold it raw.
Well,
Now,
if it makes you guys feel better, at least we buy the right books.
Yeah.
The issue is like when to sell them. If I told you the books I have up in no reserve auctions right now, there we go.
Hey,
You're smart enough to keep.
Hold on. This one you can buy raw, still relatively cheap. I think it's still a home run, to be honest with you. Like, I think if you had to tell me pick 5 books that have upside, because then you can buy this for 30 or 40 raw, roughly. Like, I still think it's got huge upside.
Yeah, I have 3 or 4 of those at CGC. They just they're in quality control.
Uh-oh, you're fucked.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
I didn't even know Monsters Unleashed was a title. That's my girl.
Yeah, and a lot of these again.
I still don't have a 1 variant.
Not too many out there.
Did everybody forget about Moon Knight? Like, is that just over now until they announce an actor? No one cares. It's like so heart-wrenching.
I took a Moon Knight book out to talk about tonight. I don't know what the fuck I did with it.
I like that book. Then there was a key alert, and now it's over. I'm like, well, fuck. I'm never
So
gonna find those cheap again.
That's actually one of my other spec matrices that I did for tonight, which shows some of those other appearances and things like that related to her. So I don't know how late you guys are going to be on, but let's see.
Depends on who else jumps on.
Yeah. So Peter Parker. I like the second print of this one because it's that the Spider-Man behind bars swipe from Captain America.
That's a good cover.
Negative,
yeah, that's
almost negative.
Cover.
It's like a black negative space too, which I think was like pretty cool.
I don't have the second print of this, and I'm butthurt about it.
And man, if they give Frank Castle War Machine's armor in any kind of like major, like any kind of on-screen format, I don't care. That would be wild. They're gonna get their redo one day, and I think it's gonna be a spectacular reimaging of them. I think they should give him the Hickman. Let Hickman fix it. Make Hickman fix the Royals by making them intertwined as like the cousin species of X-Men from Otherworld, and that'll solve everything. Keep them Kree and fix all the wild stuff. Now, this run of Secret Warriors, this is underappreciated in my opinion because Moon Girl, Ms. Marvel, Quake, and they're going up against Mr. Sinister.
Good shit right there. Good shit right there.
Yeah. This one, like the headshot variant is kind of cool because she's like gray She-Hulk, right?
Is there a second print of that?
Yes, there is. And it's the one with Leader. It's the old Hulk versus Leader swipe.
I gotcha.
So this is the PTSD Jen Walters run. It leads into that Hulk series where she's got PTSD really bad.
No, I gotcha. Yeah, she's erratic.
Yeah. Now that one King in Black teaser that we saw, you guys all catch that?
With Gwenom versus Carnage, whatever it was. Right?
Yeah. It said Gwenom versus Carnage and King in Black. Now here's the question: is it going to be a symbiote from the 616, or is it going to be the Gwenom symbiote from her universe? Because they are very, very different. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Of course, everybody knows about this book, but I got to check my cover A to make damn sure I got that value stamp inside of it now. And if I do, I'm gonna put the notation on the ones I got listed.
Do you think cut out the stamps?
A lot, probably, man.
Really?
A lot, because
no one cut out the stamps.
You don't think? Because there was people
who were
doing
it. Like, I mean, I could imagine back in like the 70s and 80s.
Who the fuck would have cut out the stamps?
I was working at the store when this was going down. People were picking up that stamp booklet, and I remember people coming in and buying multiple copies and sticking a sticker on. Yeah, man. So the stickers been taken out of a lot of these books, and that's why I felt the need for people to share this, because somebody shared one of these about it. They're like, oh my god, I got a value stamp. I'm like, oh, there's a future Green Label nightmare waiting to happen for somebody, because it's the truth. Someone's going to find one of these books like this one right here, first appearance of Sinister Six, for the Miles version, you know what I mean? And they're going to go to grade it, and all of a sudden they get a qualified Green Label. They're like, what the hell, man? Well, you got to check out for these things. So this is, if anything, hopefully people can benefit from this.
Do we all think? Hey, do we all think the Sinister Six Miles, not that necessary or necessarily that iteration, but some iteration is what they're doing for Spider-Man 3?
Yes. They wouldn't bring in Electro and all the other. They've been planting the seeds for Scorpion, Vulture, and everybody else. And you never know. Mysterio could not be dead, and we could see Jake Gyllenhaal return.
That's 4. Craven would be 5, and who's number 6?
Doc Ock, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you would think it would have to be.
But is it going to be the original version, the original lineup? We don't know. Who's going to be the Green Goblin of that Sinister Six? You know what I mean? So this one right here, Spider-Man Deadpool, I was very, very disappointed that this book didn't have a lenticular second print. Because
that's a great cover, dude.
This A cover is really, really good. I agree. This one right here, Spirits of Vengeance. Another one that did not get a second, so the A covers are desired. And then here's the big boy. Everybody knows about this one. So, with all those Thanos 13s that have been graded, has anybody checked to see if there's any qualified grades on the census?
No, have you?
No, I haven't checked.
All right, I'll check. I'll do it.
Because I'm willing to bet there may be like a couple of them that probably crept through there, and that's going to be the ones. Gotcha.
I bet there's not even one.
Think?
We'll find out.
This is that end of that Thor run where she was about to die.
There are 7 qualified copies.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I can't believe it.
Okay, and so now what this demonstrates, and it's with empirical evidence, is if those aren't signed, that I again overestimate how intelligent people are in the market. I assume rational players that are educated, conscientious, prudent, and I'm dead wrong.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, that's 7 out of the 1,785 that have been graded.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit.
So does that rarity of, oh my God, you have a used Marvel value stamp? I want it. Does it do it like what other?
I don't know. Dude,
I think the one you want is the 6.5, which is the lowest qualified one.
Wow. So somebody took their beat up reader copy. It was like, I love this book. I'm going to grade it. It's the first appearance of Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Right.
And you know what? That book is probably in somebody's PC and it will never leave.
Yeah. It's such a great cover.
Yeah.
That one right there. Yeah. And dude, another one of these books that if you saw the lenticular that they did, which was an old Weapon X swipe, and it would have been a Weapon X swipe with Old Man Logan in place of Weapon X tearing up everybody with dual claws out. And they did not do a second on it because I guess they didn't have enough ordering for it. And then, of course, the last little stretch here of these X-Men books, X-Men Blue.
I look for the X-Men Blue and the X-Men Gold second prints, and I never freaking find them. It drives me nuts. I always look for these second prints.
And,
I was looking for these second prints before you told everyone and made it harder for me to look for those second prints. It's okay. It's only fair. But the point is, they were hard before. They're just harder now.
I'm watching that Spider-Man 234 come down in price a lot, though. Unfortunately.
What's it down to?
About $65 was the last time somebody sent me an offer. So
that's the lot. That's where it was when I think when I first started looking for it.
165, 175 were the.
Is how high it went.
It's how high it went. So that book has come down, and I'm patiently waiting for it to be like $20 again. And
I was going to say,
all right,
I might buy the $40 copy and just give up. But yeah, I'd be much more excited if it was $20 in person, no shipping.
And yeah, that's it. $20 in person with no shipping, and I can
tap in 9.8, right?
make sure it's got no color rub on the back and the spine breaks I can press out. But that's like a dream that would only come true if con season actually had happened, and I was able to go dive into MegaCon.
Con season, holy shit, is that a thing?
Pepperidge Farm remembers con season, man. I tell you, and that was a long time ago.
So. MegaCon Ultra, and I know you got to get off here like right now. It's 10:30. But if I could just ask you one last question, before I thank you kindly for sharing the goods with your buddies here on the podcast.
Yeah, man.
Con season, theoretically, is it coming? MegaCon in March. 2 questions. 1, is that fucking real? Is it really going to happen? And 2, will you be there with or without a hazmat suit?
Being locked up as long as we have been without any of the normalcy, you damn believe I'm going to be there. If I am allowed to go, that is pending real life responsibilities, of course. So if I have a press pass and the ability to go through there and do my thing, many years ago, I did a con recon for this MegaCon. I can't remember how many years ago it was. I got some very interesting books. In fact, that was when people still didn't know the value of second prints, and I pulled a Sandman 75 second print for $5. And
oh wow,
nice.
And at the time
score.
at the time there were no 9/8 in the census, which of course was
that the one Doc Joe has.
That is the one Doc Joe has, which I will have to buy back from him at a high point when I can. So he's keeping it warm for me, and I'm gonna give him a pretty good return on his loan. So
this is one of my favorite seconds prints, which is fucking a bear to
oh,
find.
How the hell did you find? God bless America. Good job, man.
Well, Alex Malev, like I met him in fucking 2002. Like I love his
Good
work.
job.
I love this book. Like I just completely
well
love
done.
it. I'm not sure how many there are. It doesn't feel like there's a lot because it's as hard as fuck to find.
Yeah, none on eBay. There's
Big
none
fan
on
of big fan.
You know, and we right now are at a very good advantage because we can go and pick through all of those books from like 2005 to like 2012, 2013, when people started returning to the hobby heavily. There's so much picking to be done in that stretch of low print stuff, because that's when sales figures were like, they were in the shitter, let's just be honest. And that's why the whole Marvel Now relaunch and really invigorated the line and even got me to come back to it. So, but yeah, I'm all for a lot of those stuff. And then who had the first Sandman 75 second? Who? I wonder, Ben Stein. Yeah, that's it.
Steiner from the diner.
Yeah, and he completely crushed the value of the 9. Well, I don't think it crushed the value of the 9.6s at all. I think it just made the established market that was there for the 9.6s solidified with an exponentially big jump between the 9.6 and the 9.8 in that book. And that's also just one of those books. And with the Sandman stuff coming down the pipeline, I think that's a future monster, honestly. But hey, man, I do got to run.
All right, buddy. We'll bullshit more. Thank you.
I'll listen to you guys.
Me.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on, and I'll definitely listen to you guys while I'm in the car.
Sounds like a plan, Ultra.
So,
good seeing you.
Thanks again.
So can I kind of pick up where he left off? He said what I believed before the boys failed. And I know right now I just angered everybody who's watching, but like, I love the boys. It's a win. It's an exceptional show.
Fantastic. Fucking fantastic.
That number 198 is relatively inexpensive. To me, it seems incredibly undervalued. I pay market for nothing ever as a matter of principle. I just don't. And I was telling Steve, I was like, maybe I'll just buy a boys 198. For me, just to stick in a box, even though it apparently isn't going to appreciate. And I was like, Ultra, I was like, dude, Sandman, here we come. Can't wait. And they even did it right. The boys is rolling out episode 1 week at a time, slow burn, but it's not Marvel. And it didn't get this huge price explosion like Marvel films do. It's not The Walking Dead.
Like the Walking Dead. I mean, I saw some interesting, comparison. Some folks were thinking, it's the next Walking Dead. But the thing that sticks with me about The Walking Dead is that every single issue increased in price. I mean, when The Walking Dead was hot, everything from 1 to, about 115 or so, was hot and expensive. And I haven't I haven't seen that with the boys. Like, here, I'll show you one I picked up for $1. Now, I think this one is sells decent because it's a Dark Knight homage. This is issue 48, but I think some of the other issues that are not the variants.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't look at sold listings for those variants, but still, they're like $20, $30 books,
right.
And the first issue, again, like a 9.8. I remember when I was like, oh, I saw it. It sold for like $1,000. And my buddy's like, no, you're insane. And I'm like, no, I swear there was a sold listing. And I went and it was like, I don't know, like 2 9.8s and some other variant or something.
Right. It was a lot.
Yeah, it was like a lot. And it just had the first one. I was just like, wow. Okay. Pull that one out of my slab pile. And it doesn't make sense to me. So, I think like you've already seen the Price of Sandman 1 kind of hit around that 450 mark. We saw the same thing with Watchmen 1, maybe a little bit more for issue 8. And obviously the Karen Berger variant is through the roof. There's some other sort of errors that are super rare or kind of rare in that run. And then the 75 second print, obviously people care about it too. But I mean, is there potential really for the Sandman run or any particular issue to explode? Or is it going to look, even no matter how good the TV show is, even with a major success, is it going to look like The Boys, Umbrella Academy, and Watchmen, and all these other not Marvel series?
I missed the 90s, so I still haven't read the Sandman. So I'm not a good person to ask. But I did just read something where Neil Gaiman said he was going over the dailies, so it is progressing along.
I think there's potential. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on it. I think that was a great run. The problem with DC is from a content standpoint, visually, sort of media, is it's so fragmented. And Steve, you have a much better take on this than me, but there's the movies, there's the CW TV shows. It's not all tied together. And I think because there's so much, any new release doesn't necessarily move the needle as much as it should, in my opinion. But that, that is a big storyline. I think there's potential there, but it just feels like it's spread so thin in some ways that, like, sometimes when this stuff hits, it doesn't move the needle the way that it should.
I mean, it's brilliant. It's arguably honestly, my favorite. Yeah. I hope Steve, like, please take. Yeah,
I mean, honestly,
knock out 75 issues. You'll thank me when it's over. You'll be like, oh, that was brilliant.
Yeah, it makes me think about one of my favorite business book is called Good to Great, and they compare the great companies to the good companies. So like McDonald's to Burger King, or what did they do? CVS to Rite Aid, for example, or Walgreens to Rite Aid, I think. But I mean, even as a DC guy, I get it. It's Marvel is clearly the A brand, and DC is the B brand, and that's not something that's recent. It's something that's in the DNA of the company. I mean, when you look at late 60s Marvel, early 70s, and you see the interweaving, I mean, and I'm just looking at covers. I mean, the interweaving of villains and heroes in the stories, and then you take a late 60s, early 70s DC Superman comic, and it's just some freaking goofy story, standalone imaginary story. I feel like DC was, still running off the fumes of Batman 66 and that kind of goofy nature. And, it took, folks like Denny O'Neil to bring Batman back into, a serious character. So, as much as I love DC. You know, it's just it's the off brand, right? It's the second place. It just is. But I do like how DC's able to bring multiple versions of their characters, of their IP to market without having to, worry about, oh, are we going to take away from this? So, for example, you've got Teen Titans Go, but you have the Titans streaming show, and you have the Flash TV show, but we still could have a Flash and a Justice League movie. So I do like some things that DC is willing to do that Marvel isn't. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that you say that DC is the B brand. I mean, when I was a little kid and I thought about comic books, it's Batman. The Holy Trinity was Batman, Superman, and I don't know what girls play with, but that Wonder Woman girl. I mean, as a child, it was those three. And like
when I got into comics, DC was like the Batman movies. It was the 800-pound gorilla. And I kind of gravitated to Marvel because it wasn't that, but like you couldn't compete with that when I was growing up. Like that was it, right? And as a Marvel kid, like I couldn't find action figures, I couldn't find any video content. It was DC. It was
absolutely right. Well, I mean, think about it. The Secret Wars toys. Good luck.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. That was it until the X-Men toys came out. It was Secret Wars, and then like a 10-year gap between the X-Men toys came out. Right, that was
right.
It.
I remember there was the Air Iceman carded toy that I always wanted when I was a kid.
Yeah, no shit.
It's probably like $4 now, or 4,000. I don't know which, but
yeah.
Hey, listen, guys, I gotta hop.
You gotta rock and roll.
One book before I go.
Please. Yeah. Hold on one second, buddy.
So,
let me get you nice and big. Yeah. Hold on. We talked about this one.
Yeah.
Explain why anybody would ever want a dang action figure variant.
Well, first of all, let's start. When action figure variants came out, they were hot as hell, right? Everybody loved them. And like anything else, they overdo them to the point where nobody gives a shit, right? That's the market. Now, this book in particular was cool because American #1 had a print run, or sorry, not print run, but retailers ordered about 45,000. So for a #1, that's relatively low. This book, in order to get it, you had to order 250% of Ultimates 2 #2.
Hold on. In order to be eligible to order any copies?
Yes. So you had to buy 250% of American #1 of what you ordered of Ultimates 2 #2. Now that book had a print run of 20, or retailers ordered about 24,000. So 250% is 60,000, right? Now keep in mind, American #1's total retailer ordered was 45,000. So most retailers never got access to this book. And the reason that it came on my radar is I was looking for it. I'm like, why is this book so fucking hard to find? Like, why can't I find this book? Like, I was digging for it, and it was nowhere to be found. So I had to okay, something's going on. So I dug a little bit, and I think America is going to be a huge character. Action figure variants. There was a point in time where there was this fatigue where nobody wanted them anymore. And that was 2 years, after that book came out. So, that book is relatively scarce, and I think that thing's this big potential there. And you can find it. It's not expensive right now. It's like a $10 or $15 book. I don't think that's going to be the case forever. But if you see that thing, I'd recommend grabbing it because I think she's going to be big. I mean, by all indications, she's in Doctor Strange 2. And her, when it comes to collecting her appearances, like her first book seems to be after Vengeance #1, really the book to grab. So I don't know. I'd be on the lookout for that one.
Good stuff.
So, anyways, guys, listen, I got to hop. George, Steve, thanks, guys. Good stuff.
Thank
as
you, my
always.
friend.
Good seeing you.
This was a lot of fun. Let's do this again next week, and we'll talk soon.
Later, brother.
All right.
Later.
Yeah. So, just you and me, Nico.
Yeah, I like that he's always dropping good knowledge. It makes me happy. I was really happy we got William too.
Let me go back because Dan Piercy did say something about that it's such a subjective opinion, which is so true. And I guess I look through it of the lens of, I got out of comics as a DC fan probably in the late 80s and didn't come back to the early 2000s or mid 2000s. So, it's kind of like I left comics and I came back and it was a Marvel world. And I guess that's the lens I'm viewing it through. So ever since I've come back, it's been Marvel for the last, let's say, 15 years, right? So I guess I'm caveating in a little, and there's clearly, some things DC does better, I still read more DC than Marvel, but I don't think we talk enough about the indie books. I mean, to me, that was the real revelation coming back to comics was that indie books had really matured so much because when I was getting Comic Buyer's Guide and the indie books were Adolescent, Radioactive, what was it,
Hamsters.
Yeah, thank you, and Fish Police, stuff like that. And then I come back and there's indie books like Scalped and Southern Bastards, and we just didn't have. I feel like we didn't have indie books, in the 80s of that caliber.
Unquestionably, it is the revolution of the last 30 almost years.
Yeah.
Starting, I really think with Image, when the big creators there took off, they, Herschel Walker through a defensive line. I mean, they just left a huge hole, and people have followed suit. I mean, I can go through the list, but I love what James Hake's doing at the top of Scout. Love what Ross Ritchie is doing over at Boom Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to discount Vault and IDW and all these other publishers that Aftershock, Dark Horse, you name it, that are just doing great books every single freaking month. Great titles. Some better than others, but
and
same can be said for Marvel and DC.
And it's great that writers can move between them. I mean, one of the Future State books I'm excited about, and I'm trying to remember which one she's writing, but Marguerite Bennett, who writes Animosity, she's my favorite female writer. I mean, she wrote The Joker's Daughter, or The Joker's Daughter's Origin, who I think is still way better. Talk about controversy. Way better than Punchline.
I'm clipping that. I'm putting it on IG.
What's
Those
that?
are fight.
Fighting
what
words.
You just said.
Words?
Yeah, what you just said. We're gonna get them. We're gonna tell them.
Right. And I still think it's a good spec bet. I think, like I said last week, I think some of the best spec is Dead Spec. That just is waiting to come back.
Yeah, unquestionably. I don't know that it would be a CBSI show if we didn't talk about Star Wars. So if you'll endure this for just a small amount of time, the reason that I'm talking about that is twofold. One, you talk about spec. I talk about books that are already worth a ton of money that are just sitting in back issue bins. You don't have to wait for them to appreciate. Those are Star Wars books. They're not maybe at your local comic shop, but I promise they're somewhere in a 2-hour radius, and it's worth getting in your car to go look for them before someone else does. these are some of the ones that I've found, and some of the ones that I'd probably consider even paying market for today, because I think for whatever reason that kind of revolution's happened. I don't understand it. When we were younger collectors, things like Transformers, He-Man, Star Wars, G.I. Joe were considered second class comics because they didn't originate in paper format. You're like, oh, well, that's supposed to be a cartoon, or that's supposed to be a whatever, right? And that was just kind of the sentiment from me, and I think the entire collector's market.
They were just licensed comics, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and people were mad. Like, that's not the real Star Wars. That's not the real G.I. Joe. That's not the whatever it may be. It's not the real Transformer. That's a stupid comic book. Watch the cartoons, collect my toys. But that sentiment is gone now. Is that something that you ever thought would happen?
I was never a big toy guy. I just to me, computers were my toys. And what were the cartoons that I watched? It was Challenge of the Super Friends, right? And it was the DC cartoons. If it wasn't DC, I wasn't watching it. I mean, yeah, I have. Believe me, I mean, I watched plenty of He-Man and everything, but just never fell in love with He-Man or Turtles or Transformers the way some other kids that were my age did. But and you know what the nice thing is about being a DC guy, and I'll go back to a Marvel world, or maybe a DC guy who's not a Transformers, G.I. Joe guy, is I don't have any trouble letting them go. I never feel like, oh, it's a Transformers one or a G.I. Joe one. I got to keep it.
It's terrible. I that was one of the reasons why I was so excited about the Star Wars stuff. Right? I was like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
What do I care? I'm just gonna buy them. I'm gonna sell them. And now that I have them, I'm like, kind of like to keep that one.
Yeah,
it's insane.
With Star Wars, I'll have to say I started reading some of the Star Wars books, and
good.
And there's some good stuff out there. And you made me think of one of my pickups, and also one of the latest things. I have a website, mybargaincomics.com. In addition to the IG, eBay, and YouTube I put up there. We just put out a new article this week on Free Comic Book Day comics.
Oh, nice.
And
can you show us that stuff, Steve? Do we know how to do that? Are we that fancy?
I have no idea how to do that. I'm not.
We'll need McClay to do that for us.
Yeah, we'll do it with McClay, but I'll just show this one.
Hold that thought. And nice and big, so I can see what's actually going on here.
This is a free comic book comic, right? Yeah. And I found 4 copies of this in the last couple months. Wow. And I think this guy is isn't he Darth Maul's brother?
Absolutely.
I think so, yeah. So so the idea of building that Free Comic Books Day page was, every year you see the list of free comic books available, but you never see all of them together over the past 17 years. And it's just immense. And there's probably still some gold in there, because what's come out of Free Comic Book Day? Umbrella Academy, this book, that 2009 Spider-Man book. That's what, the first jackpot, I think, right?
Mr. Negative.
Yeah, or Mr. Negative. Right. Thank you.
Maybe both.
Maybe both. Maybe both.
Hold on. Don't forget about One Punch Man.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a laundry list of win after win.
Yeah.
And people kind of poo-poo those books. The nice thing about them is they don't get taken care of.
Right.
They're not in good condition. And generally the buy-in is next to nothing.
Right. And the other thing that I learned,
That's a lot of upside.
Yeah, and the other thing I learned is if it's not, and I have to do more research on this, but if it's not a gold or silver title, it's really up to the retailers on how much they order. And as you and I know, they're not free to the retailers. They pay anywhere from 10 to 30 cents. So there's some relatively low print ones.
A new one too. What help me. People are it's like a $200 9.8. My local comic shop owner's like, look, I got a bundle of them. I was like, thanks, dude. I don't even know what it is, but they must have been talking about it on one of the Diamond Facebook groups.
Okay.
Shame on me. It would be.
Was it the last? You mentioned is it the last Airbender one?
No, I think it's on one of the top 10 lists.
Okay. Well, we've got Stein on here. Let's see.
Yeah, maybe Stein will tell me what it is.
Chip in. He's chipping in, all right. Yeah. Yeah, he's of the mind that they should not be considered first appearances. They are no different than previews.
Yeah, he hates them. No, he vocally hates them. I just wish you'd tell me what book I was talking about.
Believe me, I am not advocating. I'm before I did this article, I was one of those guys that was like the people that go and buy or go get free comic book day comics and then sell them. That's just the scum of the earth.
Well, let me ask you this. I don't even get them on free comic book day.
That's the thing. Like for the past couple of years, I haven't even gotten them. So then I'm like, all of a sudden, like, hey, I want to put together a comprehensive guide. I don't have any of them. I had to go out searching for them. So
it's not really that important. The point is, there's a recent free comic book day book that popped. Oh, it's the Simon Baz.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
that's a $200 book.
A 9.8, $200 9.8.
9.8?
I don't know. Let me rephrase that. According to my local comic shop owner,
right?
Because he was like, "I'm going to slab this whole big thing," and I was like, "That's nice." I don't know. I just try to be agreeable when people tell me what books are worth and stuff.
Well, it's funny.
That's good. I'm glad it's worth all of that money for you.
I mentioned that 2009 Spider-Man book. I never see that one. And that's a Marvel, gold level free comic book day sponsor. I always pick up the 2011 one, which looks very similar. It's just got Spider-Man in a different pose, but they both have white backgrounds. But that 2009 one, that's what, 11 years ago, free comic book day. Very, very, I've never found it in the wild. So,
all right.
And the funny thing,
Oh, I was going to say, you go. I was just going to say, do you want to crank through these? The Star Wars Nightmare? The Star Wars Nightmare.
Please,
you ready?
Please, yes.
So here's sort of the long story short. All you have to do is remember these covers. I think these are the ones that you can probably still find because I found them. Multiple copies of all of these. They're not going to be in every shop because there's going to be somebody out there. But these are kind of like the easy hits, I think.
All right. Well, I've got my phone ready. I'm going to take shots.
All right. You ready? Let's see. And we'll try to move with haste so I don't belabor the point. Here we go. First, I grab these every time I see them. They're always out there. That's Darth Vader #3. I grab the Darth Maul 2s. This guy is a personal favorite. I don't know that you're going to find these out there anywhere.
No, you don't find that one.
You're not going to. But I still pay like 20, 30, 40 bucks for 9.8 candidates. I think that's a smart move. I would keep doing that. These ones you will find. It's the retailer variant.
Oh,
it's
like the previews. Yeah.
Yeah, the previews exclusive. All of the weird Star Wars variants, I just grab them all. So on my list of like still undervalued, still has room to grow, it's 23, which is Revan and Malik. 24, the last one in the run. Because they're giant size books, high grade ones are impossible to find. I think people will still overpay for these. all the way till The Mandalorian is no longer on television. I think they'll continue to pay ridiculous amounts of money for this thing. It's just always a win.
Right.
The one that's a little more complicated.
Even when Star Wars wasn't cool, that one was cool.
Right. Yeah, it's just been on an upward trajectory, right? But this is the one that I think people will leave in bins.
Yep.
All right. It's number
81.
60, 81. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can find this. People used to buy it for the cover. Now they buy it for the spec value of the plot. That little spec tip may disappear here in like, I don't know, 6 weeks. But it's worth grabbing them just out of an abundance of caution. I don't think you'll lose money on those ones. I grab Legacy ones anytime I can get them.
Sure.
Even though I think there's no real shot of that happening in the next 25 years.
Right, exactly.
And I grab all of the later printings, right? So you're just looking for the later printings on the Legacy books. Same thing, too, with cadence. People won't recognize the difference between the first print and the second print. This is the second print. It's black instead of blue.
That book just kills me because how many times did I see that? How many times?
Right?
And I'm just like, Psh, this isn't
all the tag and blinks.
I'll always pick those up. Always.
Every single time. I still grab the Heir to the Empire ones, almost regardless of condition.
Right.
I grab Legacy War ones because of the Darth Crate cover. I think it's just always a win. People on the Star Wars show are going to be mad at me. They had like a whole episode like, my friend who's not named George, who doesn't go by Nico on the other episode, it's not him, but he asked me this thing and he's wrong. Yeah, I think they're fucking absolutely insane. Topher agrees with me. Grab this book, Bad Batch. We'll see.
Which issue is that?
It's the 19 variant. It's like a 1 in 100.
Okay.
It's like a precursor, pseudo kind of prototype, but it's as close as we ever get to Bad Batch.
Okay.
So if the cartoon's a hit, I think people will pay for that and some of the other books in that vicinity. That's the one that, they're out there and they're cheap. Hell, they're out there on the internet cheap thanks to a lot of that stuff. This one blows my mind. They're like $200 now.
Wow.
That doesn't even make any goddamn sense to me. And they just keep selling them. But you can find them in back issue bins. I would have paid $5 for this one because it was $7.99 and then they scratched it out, or $3. I think it's a $3 variant box or something. I got a stack of them.
I have a couple of the droids, that variant where it's just like a very dark background. I think it's issue 1 of Afra. I gotta check on if that's popped.
Yeah, I don't know. The 3 I know went through the freaking roof, and I don't know why, but just grab them if you see them out there.
People like evil droids.
I grab this trade paperback, so it's deceptively hard because it appears that there are cheap copies on the internet, but there are not. Shoot. Because what happens is you buy them like I did, and then, like, oh, they're $4 on Amazon.
Okay.
This is I don't even want to tell you how many of these to try to find high grade ones. And then you get them and they look like this. See the, I don't know what is growing on there, but it's probably going to be mold or some sort of blood, or I don't even know, but they're just destroyed. Right. The high grade ones I think are a win. Everybody gets mad when I say that he's got a shot, Vader's apprentice, of having some sort of on-screen iteration. I think he absolutely does. And
who's he for those out there who?
What the hell is the guy's name? What is this fucking? It's gonna drive me nuts. They made a whole video game about the guy.
And that's why I said it, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I know I've sold that trade before, but
yeah, bear with me here, buddy. I'll tell
because
you.
there's good money to be made in a lot of those dark horse trades. Not all of them, but some of them.
What is it? I'm trying to remember what. God, that's gonna drive me.
We need the dark side guys here.
Yeah,
where's Marco?
They just all yell at me because I'm wrong. Star Killer, yeah. Well, Star Killer's the name, but there's like 2 iterations, and Galen Malik. Thank you, JJ, my man. Galen Malik is what I couldn't remember. I'll anger people. I call him Star Killer. They're going to be like, no, he's dead. That's a clone. Right. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But I like these ones. It's Revan's girlfriend's first appearance. I think they're a win all the time. It doesn't matter if they're direct markets. Obviously the newsstand's preferable, but they haven't taken off in price. If Revan and Malik's appearances are as valuable as they are, then she's got to be up there too. Right, like the same books.
Now which issue is that? Because I feel like
it's just the first one.
Oh, Star Wars Tales 1. Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I buy them every time I can, and I overpay for them. I haven't tried to clean them out off eBay, but I don't even want to tell you how much I'm willing to pay for them in person. It's just problematic. I love the number 9. There's 2 covers to all the tales, right? So this is the one that has the boxing between.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Vader and Maul. I love this cover too. Add this to the long list of things I don't want to even admit to how much I was willing to pay for it, just to have an incredibly nice potential 9/8 high grade copy. CGC has actually taken notice of how many Star Wars books they're getting in all of a sudden, right? They're just like, where are all these Star Wars books coming? I think there's actually, I can't remember if it was on the CGC boards or like a press release or something, but it's a thing. It's a big deal, and
yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been picking up Star Wars books all over the place, and it's challenging if you don't know them, and it is challenging to learn, because even they've got subtitles sometimes, and sometimes the subtitles
you gotta pull the books all the way out so you can see the whole damn thing, and you got to remember the covers. So this was the 31 and the 40. Somebody actually gave us this tip. They sent it to the Flipside IG. I'm sorry that I forget your name. Thank you for that one, to help us correct the CBSI top 10 list that I don't think accurately reflected the importance of those 2 books. I had an opportunity to go buy all of them, but didn't want to trade on this guy's insider info. We passed it on to Ben. He didn't do it either. And those copies disappeared after he changed the list. And now they're like 50, whatever, $100 books. I think you got to look for, so some of this stuff's like a little harder, right? Like I'd probably, if I didn't have them, consider paying ratio for the Kanan 1 ratio variant. I think that Asajj Ventress is who is being cast as the female in the Obi-Wan Kenobi casting call that's been reported. Other people keep telling me I'm stupid, and then they find all these like B grade deep down into the dirt. They're like, no, it's Wazi Hoozy 3 card or whatever, like colon, semicolon, other Arabic symbol. I can't pronounce it. Lots of spitting, and I'm like, no, it's a star. Trust me, it's a star, and no one would care. So the Asajj Ventress again. There's
2. Wow.
Yeah, but there's whatchamacallit, their newsstands. That's the only reason I had that one up. The newsstands all have that little see a little extra box.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the newsstand for Dark Horse for the uninitiated. and these things are just nuts now.
Right.
It's like nothing I've ever. It's
I
like
don't
nothing
think I
I've
have
ever
a
seen.
9, but I have a 10, and I'm hoping maybe 10 will catch some of the drift. But
It's
I
not a
don't
bad
think it's
idea.
happened yet.
Yeah. Now the one that you can't buy, like you can buy all of those other books. You can even buy like the Dynamic Forces Jedi versus Sith #1. This is the one you can't buy.
It's so funny.
There are no copies. I've been trying to buy a second one for, I don't know, since April when I learned about it. You can buy all of the other John Tyler Christopher Star Wars variants. This one ain't for
had
sale.
a copy.
Nice.
Business trip 2 years ago. I went into a store, went through their variants. That one caught my eye. I mean, it wasn't anything. And I sold it like 2 years ago. I don't know. I want to say maybe $20, maybe 30 if I was lucky. And it just, it kills me. It kills me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it points to also a larger trend with annuals with their higher price point. It's funny that no one really pays attention because I think annuals in general have lower print runs. I think partly because of the price point, but partly because they tend to be one and done, so they're not essential to continuity or any type of ongoing storyline a lot of the time. Yeah,
Steve, so a critique I get often, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I get 2 critiques from people, okay?
Just 2.
They fall into 2
I get
categories.
so many more. What am I doing wrong?
They fall into 2 categories when it comes to comics, okay? Which is nice because I think like a lot of the talking heads, they get different ones. But the 2 that I get are one from strangers. They say, well, of course you'd do that. I mean, why wouldn't you not pay market for a book? Right? Like, of course you'd buy that for, $50 when it's worth $500. Now, the critique I get from my friends is, I can't believe you would even consider fucking paying that amount of money. Why would you even consider paying market for a book like that? Right? Like, those are the 2 critiques I get. I would like to believe that I refuse to pay the asking price, the market price on eBay or wherever for anything ever. But there are rare circumstances when I do. How do you kind of decide, when you're going to buy something for the going rate, and how often do you actually pay the going rate for anything?
I'd say the going rate, I pay probably less than 5% of the time. I mean, there's not a whole lot that I don't have that I really, really want. And that's not because I'm going, oh, I have so much stuff. It's just, I'm kind of picky. I really, I'm not into Marvel, right? I mean, although I have gotten a little bit more into Marvel, in recent years, whenever someone asks me, I'll tell them, I love Tom King's Vision. I've been reading Immortal Hulk. So, I've gotten more open-minded. And then there's, the indie books, right? I'm trying to think about the last indie #1 I paid big bucks for. May have been Why the Last Man, #1. I wanted one for my PC, but
good pick.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, do you find you buy more indie books for paying market for them for your PC, or overpay for indie books than you do for Marvel or DC books?
Yeah, but
I do too. Yeah, I do too. Right, like
anything I'm doing for investment, I'm not paying more than $5 for. I mean,
I think my rule is, and people are gonna say I'm a psycho, right? Like I'm gonna get hate immediately, right?
Right.
I pay about a third.
Yeah,
I'll pay a third of what I think I can sell it for, because a third is automatically gone, right? From,
I mean,
you know,
there's
like
just so
eBay. Then
right.
the other third is, well, I got to sit on it until it's gone, right? Like that's a huge risk. Like, good grief.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and there's so much downside. You know, I look at, especially variants. You know, I look at them like for a brief time I got into trading options, and there's this concept called decay. And it's kind of compared to like when you buy a new car. As soon as you drive it out of the parking lot, you know, the value starts going down. And I mean, that's the way it is with, you know, probably 85% of variants out there. So
yeah, can you kind of elaborate on that idea, because I think it's really important, right?
Right.
So decay is a business concept,
right?
Can you tease this one out?
Right, and you know, as time goes on, you know, the decay, you know, or the value declines, right? Yeah, over time.
Over time,
right? I mean, the couple of times that I've bought you know, a big variant, like I always think about the A-Force 1, the Hughes variant with Medusa on it. I bought it at $50 the day it came out. And that was before the Inhumans, you know, IMAX and the TV show and everything. I'm thinking, you know, this is money, right? And it wasn't. I mean, that I wound up selling that as a loss. I know it's recovered since then,
since then.
Yeah, which I find surprising, but yeah, I mean, that's why I limit myself unless it's for the PC. And you know, I know a couple people on here will point out, you know, Steve, you've paid like hundreds of dollars for DCUs. Well, you know, the DCUs, they're for the personal collection. And then also, I don't have it handy, but when Chadwick Boseman passed away, I had a really unusual reaction. Which, you know, I'm not into celebrity culture. I'm not into celebrity worship. I'm not big into celebrity signed books. But something went off in my brain that said, if you want a Chadwick signed book, you better do it now. And so I did buy a Stan Lee and Chadwick signed book from like Abu Dhabi Con, and it's a very cool book. And I think that's the most expensive book I've bought, and that was short of, you know, $2,000. But you know, most of what I do is as a dealer, and as a dealer, it just seems pretty silly to spend more than $5 on any book. Because, you know, you've got, especially when you're doing pure play online retailing, you know, someone's going to take a cut, even if you're not doing it through eBay. You know, some payment processor, right? You've got shipping costs in there. You know,
don't forget about returns, bangs, fraud.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord.
Yeah. So I very rarely pay more than $5, and that way I'm not unhappy a lot of the time with what I paid, or I'm stuck with, or I can't move, right?
Yeah. So I need to move on to something else. I'm done with Star Wars. I'm done with Star Wars. I did it. That was kind of my like early COVID kind of project. I was like, I'm going to learn Star Wars comics, and I did. I did okay. I think I may have paid. Yeah, I think I may have paid $25 tops for whatever those books were, like the ones there. I need to come up with another thing though, Steve. Like, I don't know what that's going to be, if I'm going to learn Transformers or G.I. Joe, because they're trying to do like that shared G.I. Joe universe. McClay fucked me though on the last episode. He showed every awesome G.I. Joe book ever. So I feel like people who watch this, my friends in my area that watched it were just like, dink, screenshot, and Carter's got every goddamn GI Joe key that's in any local retailers back in shoe bins in a 400-mile radius. So maybe that's not the move. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to learn something else. I would love to see what you picked up.
Sure.
But over the course of the next week, if you would think about like, well, what the hell can George learn next? I don't care if it's like clown covers, romance comics, westerns, funny animals. I want to learn something.
Right.
Buddy.
Well, how about, promo comics? I'm starting on. I did the DC ones. Now I'm trying to do the Marvel ones.
Yes.
So eventually, mybargaincomics.com will have not only the guide to DC promo comics, it'll have the guide to Marvel promo comics. So here's the Sugar Babies one. I've seen this one a lot. I don't think it's that uncommon. Matter of fact, so there's that one. We talked
for people who are the uninitiated. Can you kind of explain what the hell you mean by a promo comic? Like, what did you have to do with Sugar Babies?
Right. It's usually a comic that's given away free. Someone wants to use a comic as an advertising medium, and they don't want to just have an ad in a comic. They want to have a whole comic. So this one we have Sugar Babies, Charleston Chew, and what is this? Sugar Daddy. Yeah, Sugar Daddy.
I had an ex-girlfriend who wanted me to be her sugar daddy, but we parted ways.
Well, I think we're talking about a different thing, but I understand.
I misunderstood.
Yeah, totally. Hey, let's talk about some really shitty spec. How about that?
Yeah, please.
For a second, but
I got my paper and pen.
I couldn't resist, even though we talked about how bad of a spec this was.
How much you pay?
I paid $1. See, when you're paying $1,
dollar bills, y'all.
It doesn't matter, Right? I mean, because people still aren't listening. I mean, this Peacemaker in here.
$40? How much is it?
Huh?
How much is that now?
I don't know. I mean, I think I if I bought it for $1 and I can sell it for 20, that's fine. I think it's still $20. It's
got to be $20.
And people still keep coming back to it, even though it's a Peacemaker with who's out of uniform, who is tatted up, and John Cena is going to look nothing like. But go ahead. Remember when Captain Britain and MI3 was really hot?
Absolutely.
And there's nothing to say it won't come back. This is the second and third print.
Nice,
before
nice.
They were cool, right?
No, that's smart. I didn't even realize they did second and third prints. Good job.
Yeah. Earth 2 number 3. So
that's the book.
Right. I have no idea how this is performing, but for $1. So Alan, the gay Alan Scott appears in Earth 2 issue number 1, but he doesn't appear in costume until number 3, or at least on the cover until number 3. So I said, for $1, why not? I don't, we
such a sick cover.
Is.
I mean, that's such a sick cover.
We'll jump back to promo comics. So they were trying to promote the NBA All-Star game a couple years ago. And so this is the Justice League, and they meet the NBA, the TNT commentators.
That's amazing.
Now, this comic, Shaq meets Steel in this comic.
Get out of here.
No, not at all. And I thought it was just a single copy, but there's actually 3 copies in here. This is actually a decent pickup. I mean, just cool, imagine if there's another Steel movie, or Shaq appears as Steel in a commercial or something. This one I had to pick up because of the cover. I'd never seen it before. This is Justice League 80-page giant. The cover artist, Art Germ. I don't think many retailers in 2011 were buying a reprint. I mean, these are
that's gorgeous
reprint books. Yeah. I mean, this is early Art Germ.
I bet that's a brutal 9.8.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to make it either, but
I don't
That's
think
okay.
many are. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
80-page giant before Art Germ hit.
Yeah. Another promo comic. Sears has done a couple of them with DC. And so this is the first and only appearance. I forget the guy's name, but he's like the Craftsman superhero. And he fixes the Flash's cosmic treadmill and Batman's computer and a bunch of other stuff. And basically, he's left alone in the Hall of Justice, I think, to go against the Key. I think this is a New York Comic-Con giveaway. So Craftsman bolt-on system saves the Justice League.
Pretty sweet.
Yep. Here's one for $1. Remember when everyone thought there was a Nameless movie coming out? Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Rumors like to repeat.
Well, and here's the other thing. Those books have never come down in retail shops.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the problem with like failed spec for just like misinformation or whatever the hell you want to call it. Like, they go up and then they sit unsold in those bins at that price. Like, nobody ever goes back and like scratches through and is like, well, that should actually just be $5. That will forever be a $20 book. Right.
And someday it may deserve that price again. And that's why I bought it for now.
Someday it might be a freaking.
I mean, it wasn't even. I'm trying to remember which movie. Wait, I need to. Maybe someone in there.
I forget exactly how that went. It was. They thought it was going to be a James Gunn movie, if my memory is correct, and then it didn't happen.
Right.
It was a different Nameless that actually got made.
Right.
Yeah, that's my one. I love that book.
$1 each. $1 each. Now, this I have a tough time understanding as a DC guy because this is the first African American Nick Fury, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But nobody cares.
But nobody cared for what? How many years? For a decade?
Until like
like a month ago.
2 weeks ago, when I think we talked about it here, and then there was a key alert, and I was like, yes, but I didn't have the wherewithal to sell my copies, so I still have like half a short box of them. But I'm really happy about them, and I might just keep them because I know that's got to be a tougher 9/8 than Battle Scars. I mean, my God. How'd yours look coming out of the dollar bin?
I think it looks pretty good. I haven't really inspected it first yet, but I'll get to it.
Nice.
I thought this was just a cool comic.
Dude,
everyone's like basically any cover with Miles, Nova, and Miss Marvel on it. You know,
it would be cool if they do precisely that someday. Instead of the Fantastic Four, if they do those four, you know what I mean? I think that would be just a sweet homage to where we all started.
Right. I have no idea if this one. I just never seen it before. I didn't know they did an official handbook for the Invincible Universe. Picked it up. It's $1.
Yeah. Speaking
of the Sandman, maybe this will actually get me reading it. This is the Essential Vertigo, right? So the reprints. I think some people believe that these will, they're almost like quasi second prints.
Oh yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I see them and I leave them behind. I might stop doing that.
Yeah. More Marvel promo comics.
Oh, dude, that's sweet.
Spider-Man Power Pack to prevent child abuse, and just like, and so I'm discovering they're identical, sort of, right? One has a like President Reagan recognized Marvel on this one, and this one has some type of different wording.
So help me out. Those are two separate promo comics.
Yeah.
They're
the same one. I mean, I found this with even DC promo comics, where the trade dress will be different because someone different sponsored it, or maybe they reprinted it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Matter of fact, there's at least two versions of this one. So what a combination. Spider-Man, Storm, and Power Man to battle Teenage Smokey. And I'm not sure, like, if
I needed that when I was
names out of a hat. I mean,
Steve,
I know
I needed
Spider-Man.
that. Why didn't I get that? I screwed up. I should have gotten that. That could have saved me.
It explains it all, right?
Yeah, dude. Cigarettes are terrible for you.
And if they would have given you a free comic with Spider-Man,
I'd have been like, well, it all makes sense now.
Right. And Storm and Power Man. I mean,
yeah.
Trying to build. So these are the Pizza Hut.
Oh, I love those, dude. When I was a kid, I wanted those so bad.
Yeah.
I want to go back and find them now. Good job.
Yeah, so these were $1. And I see this one all the time, but I never picked it up because I'm like, it's a promo comic. But now I want promo comics, so I picked it up.
That's what that is. I didn't know.
Yeah, Toys R Us, limited edition. I think it's the animated version.
I like the X-Men, the animated X-Men #1 as like a spec play.
Right, yeah.
I just do. I think it's smart. I buy them every chance I get. I don't pay like, $20 for them or whatever, but if I see them, I snag them.
Yeah, see, I was more of I said I grew up with the DC cartoons, but I'll have to say I did watch Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends every Saturday. That was good. Iceman, Firestar. Yep. Good stuff.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. You got more?
Let's see. Do I have more? We could go on, but we'll save it for next time. Hopefully next time I'll have like a box of a case of CGC like you did last week.
Oh yeah, I got more CGC crap here that I just
really?
Yeah, but I don't know. Do you really want to look at it real quick? Last time well, what the hell does it really matter? You want to see?
Go for it.
All right, so this was the only one I was kind of disappointed about. I think I'm going to regrade it.
Oh, wow.
Dude, it's a freaking tap in, and I was just like...
And that's a promo comic, isn't it?
Yeah. I thought it was freaking gorgeous, but, it is what it is. Remember how we talked earlier about how they send the crap back to you?
Uh-huh.
Yes, they do.
Ah.
You know what I mean? I didn't even know that was in there. I just saw it, looked at the front of it, and I was like, "Oh, that's going to CGC." You saw the Invincible Iron Man, right?
Yep. Very cool.
I at least got the 9.8 on that one. Fear Agent 1, the variant 9.8.
Now, what's the deal with I've heard of that book. I don't know much about it.
It's great. John Z turned me on to it. Rick Remender. It's about to be an AMC TV show with the guys who did the weed guys. They did Preacher. They're hilarious.
Seth Rogen and
Seth Rogen
and
yeah. So I got a lot of hope for it. I just old grade, halfway decent, Silver Age Spideys. The problem is I needed really an 8.5 on that to get, like the halfway decent cash on it. I'll grade these guys too.
Nice.
If they're like VF, First Werewolf by Night, that book's down. And then this is one from a PC. Ain't going nowhere. First Golden Age appearance of Dracula. I got a 6.5. Really happy with that.
Who's the publisher? What year?
Yeah, so that's Avon from 1953.
And that's the first Dracula?
First Dracula in comics.
Wow, it took till 1953. And of all the I don't know much about Avon publishers. I don't know if it's related to the other Avon brand or not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. Yeah. I
mean, this isn't the Golden Show.
So Eerie had a vampire on it, right? Eerie #1. That was a one shot. And then they started into the regular series like 5 years later or so. People will argue about whether Eerie 1's the first Golden Age, first ever horror comic because it's entirely a horror comic. And other people will be like, no, this one has a horror element. And it reminds me of like listening to people argue about Hulk 180 and 181. I'm just like,
yeah.
Stop, or at least do it somewhere else. I don't want to, you know, I don't care. But it took undisputedly, you know, a gap of like 4 or 5 years and then 12 issues to get Dracula. I like Dracula. I think the Werewolf by Night. I'm sorry, the Tomb of Dracula 1 has a lot of upside. I probably shouldn't run my jib about that because I haven't gone out and bought one for me, but I just do. I mean, I think it does. I don't. It doesn't make any sense to do Blade on the big screen and not do Dracula. But that's kind of a longer term play, because if you do Dracula, right, if you do Blade, I don't know that you necessarily got to introduce him off the rip. And in the crazy COVID world, or post-COVID world, who knows how long it's going to be before we see Blade? You know, it's half the reason why I'm buying Elsa Bloodstones.
It's hard to imagine, you know, Marvel doing a public domain, you know, character. I mean, even if it's their version, you know, of it.
Well, they did Dracula. What's the word I'm looking for? Poorly, but that wasn't, you know, Feige,
right?
You know, MCU proper. That was 21st Century Fox Blade. You know, back in the day with
right.
Wesley Snipes was awesome, but there were highs and lows to that sort of like series of films. Dracula was a low point. I just, you know, it just would make sense to me if you're going to do like that horror kind of thing on the big screen, or, you know, to some extent on television, that you roll out Van Helsing, Dracula, Werewolf by Night, Ghost Rider. You know, you do the big boys in that universe. Hellstrom just launched. I tried to watch a little bit of it before we went live, just so that I could have something to say about it, and I couldn't get into it. Now I was watching it with my buddy, and he really enjoyed it. I was busy playing around on my phone.
I knew a trailer came out. I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's live. It's live. Okay. So who knows? I'll go back and look at it. I mean, I think you and I both enjoyed Utopia.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, which was tremendous. It's on Amazon Prime. And there's a BBC iteration that I've not seen yet. Did you get a chance to look at any of that stuff?
No, I need to. But
yeah, me neither.
You bringing up horror reminds me of, I was on a retailer call on Thursday, and Image did a little spiel, and they put out a press release on Thursday. The guy who writes Ice Cream Man is coming out with a new, I guess it's a miniseries, 6 issue called Ha Ha, which is clown themed.
Interesting.
And I was thinking, you know, it's really impressive how Ice Cream Man is broken out when you think about how much horror is done in comics these days. In order to do a property like that sticks out ahead of the pack, like Ice Cream Man has and does, it's that's just pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, there's a market for it. I asked this question and nobody knew the answer, so Marco made a joke about it because he clearly didn't have the right fucking answer. But I want to know what the right one to buy is, right? Like, if you're gonna buy Ice Cream Man because you're like me and you're like, oh, it looks like they're doubling down on it with the new series. People are starting to get excited about these variants. Maybe I'll just snag an issue, throw it in a box, see how it goes, you know, in the next 24, 36 months. I don't know that there necessarily is a right answer. And Marco's observation may have been
Ice Cream Man #1.
Well, it may have been spot on, right? He's like, well, just buy the fucking one that's not priced appropriately, which is kind of always the right answer.
Right.
But if you were going to pay market, yeah. But the problem with #1 is there's an A cover, a B cover, and a second print. And, you know, we've seen with like The Batman Who Laughs. Nobody gave a shit about the B cover. Now, admittedly, I don't think he was on the B cover of Teen Titans 12, but there are other examples of that where, you know, the B cover appears to be like a better looking cover, but people just gravitate towards the A, or the B cover is more scarce, or I'm sorry, more rare than the A cover, but people gravitate to the A cover. So I don't know how those rules necessarily apply, but I like you am at least interested in that. And I talked to Dinesh probably 18 months ago or so and asked him about because his production company Hive Mind has some kind of relationship, which he openly discussed with the surviving relatives of Gaines and the people who hold licenses to EC. And I mentioned to him that at least it was reported in the mainstream press that Tales from the Crypt had rights issues that held up M. Night Shyamalan doing the AMC series. And he was like, yeah, I don't know about all that, which, hey, may have just been showmanship on his part because he's hopeful to be able to broker that deal, or he may have, just kindly been giving us an insider tip, which is there's still hope for a Tales from the Crypt reboot from Hive Mind, which I think would be amazing. But I think that's kind of the zeitgeist of the ice cream man market. You're right, like that people have nostalgia for those kinds of stories, whether it's the Twilight Zone or Tales from the Crypt or whatever. We see it with certain TV series now.
Black Mirror,
perfect example. And people are like, I'll take an ice cream man. So who knows? Maybe we get the Crypt Keeper, maybe we get the ice cream man, but I do appreciate the tip. I've held you hostage for almost 2.5 hours. I am incredibly appreciative.
Look at that. Yeah,
it's almost midnight, but thank you for all of this, Steve. My friend, you are a saint. I don't deserve you, but I appreciate you.
Mutual. The feeling is mutual.
Bye, friends.